In 4, 17, 23. Hey everybody, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen here, leading the movement for movement and bringing movement for movement. I'm not re-recording that, we're just doing it. I'm leading the movement for movement, and I'm also bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday Training, the weekly video series where I take a strategy, concept, practice that we use in autism fitness programming and elaborate, demonstrate how we use that and how you can apply that to your fitness and adapted PE programs. Hopefully one day that term will go away also, adapted PE, because the reality is all PE should be adapted to the needs and abilities of every student, but that's a slight tangent, so I digress. In this particular Autism Fitness Tuesday training, I am going to be talking about readiness. When is your athlete ready to engage in that first or second or third set of a particular exercise, and a checklist, verbal, cognitive checklist to go along with that. And before I get started, if you are ready or think you might be ready to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro anywhere in the world, you can go to autismfitness.com, learn more about that. In the meantime, definitely like, subscribe, and comment below in how you're utilizing some of these strategies in your own programs. So the checklist of readiness. As we know, with many of our autism and neurodivergent athletes, they may not always be immediately ready, engaged, set, motivated to do any exercise or a particular exercise. So what we want to do is cover our mental, you can even write it down, checklist of whether or not that athlete is ready to go. So first thing is body positioning. Is our athlete close enough to where they need to be in order to participate fully in that particular exercise? So if they're doing a band row, for example, are they in the vicinity of the band or the band handles? If they are ready to, or if we're gauging their readiness to do an overhead press, are they near the sandbells or dumbbells or whatever else you're using as a pressing object? So that actual physical orientation is obviously going to be number one. If we have an athlete who is busy self-regulating, or they are in the process of getting dysregulated, where are they with respect to where the training is actually taking place? So obviously the environmental whereabouts are going to be consideration number one. Consideration number two is the preparedness factor. Is your athlete prepared to perform that particular exercise? Now, a wonderful strategy is to use some type of visual schedule that can be general or specific to that particular athlete. For those athletes who follow along with text or visuals, putting it up on a dry erase board can be great. And again, and this is a little off to the side, but nonetheless really important, we don't want to make assumptions about our athletes' capabilities when it comes to receptive information or information processing. We have plenty of neurodivergent athletes who may not say a lot, may not verbalize a lot, but can not only understand language, but read things that are written as well. So if we use a check-off system, or if we use a visual board for the exercises, which by the way comes in really handy for anybody who's training. I use an app that has my exercises listed, and I check them off on my phone, how many reps I did, how much, or actually in order, what the exercise is, how much weight I'm using, how many reps I have, and then how much I completed, and check it off and move to the next one. Because even when you're training at a very high level, you still want to keep track of everything that you're doing. And back in the day, it was keeping a workout log or a workout journal, and now there are apps for these things. But you can even use a dry erase board and write that athlete's program out so they can see it. This is also a wonderful way to keep our athletes engaged and present with what's going on, what is happening next. And by the way, knowing what's happening next is a great alleviator of anxiety and making sure the athlete is also aware of their accomplishments. It's a big deal for a lot of athletes when they get to cross out an exercise on a board and they have that continuity. They know, I have 3 sets and I just did 2 sets, so now I have 1 set left. It is very overt, very specific, and for our athletes who are capable and cognizant of following along with a schedule like that, it's a great option. Another option with the visual board is just listing exercise by exercise. So let's say first your athlete decides to do modified push-ups instead of band rows. We have the 3 or 4 sets of push-ups. They cross off each set as they perform them, and it's a great way of taking a break. We erase that, and then now they're doing their standing band rows. So now we add standing band rows to the board. So you can do it as the entire day's program, or you can do it exercise by exercise, whatever is working best for that athlete. So is that athlete prepared by way of information, and how are we delivering that information to that particular athlete? That's another really important aspect of that athlete readiness. So far we have positioning, so where is the athlete in the environment, and then we have preparedness as far as is the athlete aware of the exercise they're going to be doing next, how many sets, what the expectation for repetitions is going to be. And then, of course, we have the setup itself, right? Feet, knees, hips, trunk, hands, head. Where is everything? Is the athlete in a good, specific position to perform that particular exercise as best as they possibly can? Now, even if we come back to the idea of the general vicinity and the athlete is in the area that we'd like them to be in, or the area that is most conducive to performing that particular exercise, the athlete may still need a little bit of time to either self-regulate or to situate themselves so that they are ready to grab the sandbells or put their hands on the poles for the sled, or ready to grab the handles for the band, or any of these things. Do we find that the athlete is ready for the smaller setup that is specific to that particular exercise? So we want to start checking off mentally, are the athlete's feet rooted? Are their knees set? Are their hips squared? Are they in the most advantageous position possible to execute this exercise to gain the most possible and probable, or probable and possible benefit from it? Are they standing far enough away that the band has enough tension on it when they're doing a row, as opposed to the band having a lot of slack on it and just pulling back and forth without there being the necessary resistance in order to do that exercise with enough resistance that there is a training effect? All these little things. So we're going again from the general environment to the athlete understanding what the expectation is or what exercise is coming next, and then down to the minor but very important details of the setup for that particular exercise. And then finally, our coaching and cueing. Is the athlete being set up in a way where they understand the expectation for the exercise, and we're giving them feedback that coincides with how that athlete best performs or best learns to perform that particular exercise? Now, years ago, I did away with the idea that some athletes are more visual and some are more, it's exercise by exercise. And the more capable an athlete becomes with an exercise, they may need a little more verbal cueing that's very succinct and very precise, or they may need a little more mirror cueing. So the whole idea of this all or nothing, like, oh, it's a visual learner or it's an auditory learner, is pretty much garbage. It's going to be very not only individually dependent, but individual in the situation dependent as well. With some athletes and some exercises and some situations, they are going to take to a cue that is delivered verbally, and some athletes with some exercises in some situations, it could be the same athlete, they are going to respond better to a cue that is demonstrated. They may need to see something in order to process it. So this comes down to the umbrella idea of learning the most you can about your athlete and how best they respond to different cues in different situations. The least likely situation, as always, is giving a long explanation in the performance of an exercise. That virtually never works with anybody, neurotypical or otherwise. So we want to figure out how we are going to best label and demonstrate and then enable the athlete to do and cue. That's label, demo, do, and cue. That is our standard operating process in Autism Fitness. Of course, you get that when you become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro in the course, but we want to follow that general framework of introducing the exercise, demonstrating it, and then figuring out, are there going to be more verbal cues that are going to be pertinent to this athlete's success, or are there going to be more visual or demonstration cues, and what combination of the two for which exercise? Because it's probably going to differ from one exercise to the next, again, even with the same athlete. So to wrap this up in a pretty little box with a beautiful bow on top, is we want to take into consideration 4 different aspects of athlete readiness. Number 1 is, where are they? Literally, in the environment. Are they set up where they need to be, where the equipment is, where the exercise is taking place? Secondly, are they present to what is going to happen next, what they need to do, what the expectation is, what the exercise is, how many sets, how many reps, how are you communicating that to them? Number 3, are they situationally set up for that exercise itself, meaning body positioning? Feet, knees, hips, torso, shoulders, hands, head, all of these things. Are they in the best position that they could possibly be in for this athlete to perform this exercise as best as they possibly can right now, even with support? And then finally, what type of coaching is going to work best, not just for this athlete in general, again, doing away with that very, very vague, visual versus kinesthetic versus auditory learner, because it doesn't work in reality, but figuring out at what point do we need to deliver what type of cue for that athlete so that they understand what they're doing well, and that what might need to be modified at any given point. So those are 4 very, very important things to set our athletes up for success, both in the performance of the exercise, but then understanding that they are capable of being successful with that exercise and others. 4 things to think about. I hope this has been helpful. I'd love to know how you've integrated this or considering integrating this into your own programming. And of course, if you ever have a topic that you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday Training, leave that in the comments below also. And of course, always grateful for the likes, for the subscribes, and for sharing these videos with people for whom it might make a big difference. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate it.